Everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights from Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. Today, we're joined by Antoine Mitchell to talk about their project, some of his journey, and a little bit more. Welcome to the show, Antoine. So hyped to talk to you. Tell us all about your projects and what you do.
Man, I'm honored to be here. Comix Wellspring is dope, and this is a dope idea to spotlight on creators, so I'm very thankful. Um, Sankofa's Embrace, that's our Afro fantasy comic book series that issue one,
Yeah.
issue two, and issue number three, and all was printed
Ooh.
by Comix Wellspring. Um, It started back in '99, actually, just as a regular fantasy after beating Final Fantasy VIII and crying at the ending. And then it became an Afro fantasy around a time where a lot of things were actually happening. And that was in '99. So in 2005, I started learning more about African history, ways of life, beliefs, mythologies, folklore, etc. And I also met the woman who would become my wife, Queen, about 2 years later. She actually helped me come up with the name because at first it was just called Eymbrace. Um, and then I saw this movie called Sankofa. It was released in '95. If you've ever heard of Roots, but this is another movie that basically depicts slavery, um, but it depicts a model who's transported back to the past. And so that's what Sankofa means. It's a West African word that means go back and fetch it or remember the past in that aspect. And that had a profound effect on me because it's also represented by two symbols. The common most known one is a bird looking over it, looking behind or looking backwards. And then there's another one that looks like it's two swans or two birds, but it looks like a heart, which is what I used in the design logo for Sankofa's Embrace right here. And
Oh, sick.
my wife actually helped me come up with the title Sankofa's Embrace. I was going to call it Embrace of Sankofa or something like that. And she just said, what about Sankofa's Embrace? And from that point on, it just took off. And flash forward to March, between March and May 2019, we have it here now. Well, the second thing I got printed by Comix Wellspring, the first things you guys printed was a preview that I got done, and we were so impressed with the preview. We we opted for like the better paper and everything, and we've been using it since. So yeah, it's basically an Afro fantasy. Thousands of years after a catastrophic event called the Great Shattering, the Urugu moon appeared over the skies of Imbalance. Imbalance is our fantasy world, and the Urugu moon is a second moon that appears every so often. And that signaled a prophecy of a coming battle between balance and a malevolent entity called disorder. And representing balance were the Sankofa children, the Mayat child, who is the vessel for order and creation, and the Urugu child, who is the embodiment of destruction and chaos. They represent the perfect balance. However, they haven't been seen for thousands of years, and none save a few even remember who they were. So thousands of years later, when the Urugu moon appears, um, they're nowhere to be found. Nobody remembers who they were, except you have these two protagonists. One is named Asada, and another one is named Abel. Abel is kind of designed after me,
That's sick. I love
Abel
that.
and Asada. So Asada, she's what we call the chosen one, and she hears the voice of the sleeping goddess. And that voice tells her that she needs to find a thief to help her acquire an item called the Urugu feather. And this feather is to reawaken the Sankofa, reawaken the Mayat child. But when it comes to stories that involves a thief, which is Abel, the story can go all kinds of ways. So yeah, it's definitely we're on issue three. I'm working on issue 4, and my wife Queen and I are the team. I'm the writer, the creator, writer, penciler, colorist, letterer, graphic designer, and she's my editor, my sounding board, my honesty board. Um, and the only thing that we don't do is the wonderful printing that you guys do. So, but we present it and put it in a product. We fashioned the product as if you just went to your local comic book store and just picked it up alongside of a Marvel Image or Dynamite comic. We want people to feel that way. I mean, it's literally done in house, in the house, but we want people when they feel it. And the reactions that I've gotten from people when they touch it, when we're vending at markets or conventions, it's they feel blown away, and that makes us feel good.
Oh, dude, I love that. That's such a cool one, great story concept and what you're building upon and like the history you're involving. I love hearing when people kind of dive deep, especially in their own history and start to like find stories and share them with the world because that's the whole point of storytelling is
Yes.
telling the stories of the past so people of the future know. I always call it survival information because you're passing on
Mhm.
knowledge to help people survive and every story provides survival information.
Yes.
But how did you realize like your wife was you're going to be your collaborator and what really got you pushing and going on this?
Man, that's a great question, and it has like more than one answer. First of all, the fact that my wife married an artist, that says a lot, and her belief in me, um, that really helps in this. And if I'm serious about this, she's probably 10 times more serious about it. She's very protective of it, rightfully so. And
Mhm.
it's an honor to even have her present me ideas, even if I don't agree with them or that wasn't the direction that I was planning on going. The fact that she listened enough, that she's invested enough, it really helps out. And even when we're doing market days, um, and I'm bombarded with customers, um, she'll be the one like breaking it down of how we process it and how we create it. And then and that just feels good because not everyone has that. So um she's definitely my partner in many ways, definitely my partner.
I love that, dude. That's super beautiful. I love hearing that collaborativeness between you two. And you're right, that support goes a long way. And to know that your partner's right there beside you, just kind of, making art is hard, really deciding, is this good enough? Is this
Yeah.
okay? Like, and having that punch and especially giving feedback and honest feedback, like you said, that's where it really hits is that it's one thing to compliment, your partner and be like, oh, yeah, that looks great. That looks great. You're building, you're working, you're doing this. But to be like, hey, you know what? You should make some edits here. You should touch this up a
Mhm.
little bit more. I know you could do better here.
Mhm.
That's strength and that's beautiful and that's love. I absolutely love hearing that. And so where you're on issue 3 right now, building on issue 4.
Mhm.
What are your plans for the series? Is it stopping anytime soon? Are you wrapping up an arc? What's your future looking like?
Well, my ideal future, if I had it my way, we'd be like at the end of the first act, not first arc. We'd
Mhm.
be 13 to 15 issues in, but we're doing this all ourselves, and I'll also work a quote unquote day job.
Yeah,
But my day job, not the one that's not non art related. It's also me being a freelance artist. I do art commissions and what have you. Stuff that looks nothing like my comic book. It's paintings and drawings, portraits and what have you. So that takes a lot of time in order to make ends meet. But when I'm doing Sankofa's Embrace, when I'm working on it, I'm getting in touch with that child who grew up with comic books and didn't even know what they were, and then deeply fell in love with comic books at the age of 11 when my mother, God rest her spirit, um, bought me the first X-Men #1, the classic Jim Lee cover, um,
of course.
just at a Walmart. And from that point on, I just wanted to be a comic book artist. So yeah, you know what? I totally forgot the question.
Oh, yeah, just the future of it overall. No,
Yeah,
I love hearing your
yeah,
past about that because that's such a staple point too for so many people. Those
hmm
that Jim Lee X-Men, image era
yeah,
really hit a lot of people hard and just made us realize like, oh, I should try taking a hack at this because it changed. There was such a shift in comics at that time.
yeah.
And I feel like indie creators like you and myself are making another shift in comics with our
Okay.
creations. And so
I
knowing
mean,
that that was an influence backing that out, love
yeah,
that. Love that so much.
yeah, yeah. But right now, I am working on issue 4. But what one thing I am doing is slowly but surely we're going to update our website sankofasembrace.com even more, and I'm going to provide like more world building stuff because I love world building. This is at its core, Sankofa's Embrace is an Afro fantasy, but I'm not afraid to tell anyone I'm a student of J.R.R. Tolkien. um the storytelling, I mean, I'm no expert, but I listened to the audiobook of the Silmarillion like it's a Kendrick Lamar album. Um,
Yeah,
I, I,
love
I
that.
think I
Yes.
listened to it at least since I've gotten the audiobook. I've listened to it about 3 or 4 times, and then before then I listened to it on YouTube. But the amount of world building, the attention to detail, how the smallest thing in the beginning becomes something that means something way at the end. So I'm also a student. One of my textbooks is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and the
Yeah.
manga itself, which I'm still currently reading the manga, but just the pacing. So I'm learning different ways to tell the story because it's an epic story, but the only way that story is going to be told like I wanted to be told is if I won the lottery and this was the only thing that I was working on. So
Mhm.
because I don't have as much time as I would like, I'm trying different aspects of like more things about the world, and to basically have it tell its own story. And then when I get to another issue, it helps me write that issue. It helps me pace that issue better. And it helps me cross promote the website, and then the website promotes the comic book. So it's a degree of marketing in it. So we may be doing the job of about 4 to 6 people as far as creating the comic book itself, but after that, we put on different hats and become, like my wife says all the time. She puts on a different hat, becomes the mailer. I mean, we don't just become the mailer. We become the street team. We become,
Yep.
the web designer. We become so many different things, but it's worth it because I really want people to see this world that was not just inspired by Final Fantasy, not just inspired or influenced by Final Fantasy or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or steampunk or fantasy or J.R.R. Tolkien, but also like the magical place that I grew up. I'm from Louisiana. I'm in Louisiana, and I grew up in one of the little country towns. But every time I go home around there, it's just a bunch of trees. It's my grandmother's flowers, and growing up seeing that and exploring it gave me the imagination. Like when I was playing The Legend of Zelda, it gave me the imagination walking through paths and thinking I was in a fantasy world. So sometimes I need to retreat and go back to my home, to my birth home, and just explore. Just like
Yeah.
it's a beautiful park. So all of that, I want people to see it, even in the designs of some of the towns or some of the slums. I wanted to look at like, okay, well, this artist did this artist did that. But then I was like, you know what? I don't necessarily have to step to a different culture to create this area. Let me just grab from what I knew, some of the shacks that
Yeah.
I've seen growing up. So let me design
Yeah.
some shacks on top of shacks and, things like that. So inspiration is already all around me. And that's one of the things that eventually I want people to see in Sankofa's Embrace, particularly my target audience, African Americans. It's basically, you'll see they'll read things that only they would probably catch, like something from an old classic movie that we all watched. But the great thing about that too, when we do this at markets, we get other races of people that get interested in Sankofa's Embrace because they love the visuals and they love the
Hmm.
story that it's telling, and they feel like they've learned something. We're not trying to teach anybody, but one thing that we are trying to do, much like with what happened with me with playing Final Fantasy, for example, you'll see these names. Like if you've ever played Final Fantasy, you have like these summons. You summon
Hmm.
like these gods, goddesses, spirits. It depends on which game you're playing. But anyway, um, some of them are named after mythological characters who they have nothing to do with. Look, but only just in name. Like you have Shiva, Odin,
Mm. Yep.
Ifrit, you know. So think of, you know, I'm playing these games, and then next thing you know, I'm in somebody's classroom or a history class or a geography class or a world history class, and I'm hearing those same names and thinking that's the first time I've heard those names, and I'm like, hey, so that's where they got that inspiration from. I want
Hmm.
people to look at Sankofa's Embrace the same way when they see some of these characters named after certain people or places, certain magical creatures or magical spirits named after certain deities, and it'll just push them to learn more about that culture. And mine may only have something in common with it. It can be just maybe in name, but the fact that it pushed them to learn more about an aspect of my culture that I'm still learning about. So,
Hmm. Dude, that's one of the coolest things about comics and storytelling is how to educate people and how do you write a story that makes people be like, I need to look some of this up.
mhm,
And I love finding stories that make me go and research and find and discover things because you realize, especially as creators ourselves, you realize how you can manipulate that and use it for your work.
yeah,
It's just awesome. This has been so interesting hearing about your process, what it's about, the history behind it, your influence. I really got to get you on the long form show at some point
oh,
to
yeah,
really like dive deep into some of this because it's so interesting to me. Where and you said you had a website. Is that where people can go and find your work
yeah,
other than markets and cons and whatnot?
yeah. Sankofasembrace.com, SANKOFASEYMBRACE.com, and that's where can learn a bit more about the characters, have some updating to do, but it's still if you've never been there before, it's a good amount of information. We also have our world map, which is in here. It's on there. Can't have the fantasy
Sick.
without a world map. Which is that's one of the things I enjoy most about Sankofa's Embrace and doing the fantasy. The map. I think in a
Hmm.
past life I was a cartographer, so but yeah, sankofasembrace.com, and that's and it'll just just keep visiting and revisiting, and eventually you'll see more stuff on there because I'm about to start really adding some information on there and beefing the world building aspect of it up.
Love it. We'll be here to help promote it and
Me
talk
too.
about it when the new updates and issue are out. Antoine, this has been a great spotlight. Thank you so much for stepping in it today.
Thank
And I can't
you.
wait to talk to you further in the future.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it, and y'all be getting an order from me sometime soon.
Hype. Thank you so much, man.
All right, thank you.